Slashers, your new favorite podcast about your new favorite horror media. My name is Jake, and with me, as always, in one case, and for the first time beyond a Patreon bonus episode, is my esteemed colleague, co-host, and cohorts, Adrian and Coker, respectively. Say hello to the mutant goons from beyond.
Hello, mutant goons. Happy to be back.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying our ThanksGORGING month, and I hope you're enjoying my fun little commercials.
They're sounding great, and that belch gets grosser every time, which really I appreciate.
I was listening to the Stuff podcast last night at work, and that belch, I felt that in my guts. I was like, oh, it's worse than I remembered.
You can hear the flapping of like mucousy, like acid bubbles popping and plapping against an esophageal. So yeah.
There's liquid involved, and it's like, oh.
Well, of course, Jake picked it out, so.
Yeah, I just gave final approval. I think you're the one who picked it out. I think that if we look on your hard drive, we'll find a bunch of flatulence and burpulence all over the place.
There'll be gross humor.
Well, to be honest with you, the first time I did an episode, I was like, I can't make the fart noise. So I was like, Dan, how do I get a soundbite and make the fart noise so I don't have to make it?
Man, that takes me back. I don't know the last time we mouth farted at the end of the episode, but I think we're bringing it back. That's what we're saying.
I'm not doing it. I'll get a soundbite for that. It's okay. Now I know how to do it.
Here's a great thing. My son, he's way too little to like use full verbalization, right? He has a few words, but when he wants me to armpit fart, he just like points at me and does like a one-arm chicken dance. And he thinks that's the funniest thing in the world. So maybe I'll try and unbutton this blouse and get an armpit fart going for you guys.
Kids don't have toilet humor nowadays. Sucks.
No, my kids are all about the doo-doo caca humor, and it's hilarious because it's like.
But where do they get it? That's not on kids' TV nowadays. Maybe I'm an old man going, "What the hell are these kids watching?" You know.
But you're totally right.
From Jake.
Like, I mean, there's a little bit of flatulent humor and stuff like Bluey, but not much. But like, legitimately, it's just like the intrinsic nature of man is that farts are funny and girls need to get the fuck over it, Adrian.
Yes.
You know how women be. Women be all like, but then they secretly be farting.
It's not the fart noise. It's the fact. It's like how my face looks making it. That's what I don't like.
That's the predominant concern.
Exactly.
That's very funny. I wish you would have told me that back then. I thought you were being prissy. I was like, how this chick just watched somebody disemboweled in the desert, getting covered? Because in the first episode, a lady covers herself in shit, and you wouldn't do a mouth fart sound. I realize now this is a very just evil ruse.
I'm sorry. I should have turned my camera off. Oh well, but it was late.
All right. I'm springing something on you guys. We're talking about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and I feel like a lot of our conversation is going to be very esoteric. It's going to be theoretical, you know, talking about like the substance of what makes a good sequel. So I had an idea. Let's do the dumbest shit trivia quiz I could find on Google, and we'll see how we collectively do. Does that sound like fun?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't ready for this. All right.
Exactly, but these are stupid. It's going to be rad. The first question. What is the name of the young disc jockey who turns out to be the heroine in this film? And then there's a hint, something you do when you wake up. To make it better, the first choice of the next multiple choice is this person's name, Stretch Block. And we'll do it. Hey, we got it right. Next
Yay.
One. Whom does Choptop injure very badly at the KOKLA radio station with a hammer?
This is like when you went to the movie theater as a kid and they had those like really dumb fucking movie trivia questions right before they played the trailer. This is what that is, but Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 version.
Oh yeah, and this is where the bro who has like the tank top on the sides where it's so cut, you're just like you see side movements like bro, it's dances with wolf, bro. What the question like what Indians dancing with canines is wolves?
Oh
yeah. So we're gonna go with LG McPeters.
Yay.
Next one. What contest does Drayton Sawyer win? A butchering contest, a chili
cook-off,
a chainsaw making contest, or a gambling contest? We already know the answer, so we'll move on. Where is KOKLA Stretch's radio station located? Again, another one saying the answer to the first person. God damn it.
I think it's in Texas, I want to say.
Yeah.
Is it Whiteville, North Carolina, Dallas, Texas, Burke Burnett, Texas, or Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Dallas, Texas.
That's Dallas, isn't it?
It's such a Dallas movie. It really is such a it's so outside of the typical Royale of the first movie. It's awesome.
It's actually Burke Burnett, but I think that the fact that they listed Oklahoma is very clever because I remember as a kid being like, OKLA, like this is supposed to be Oklahoma? Like this is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Get you Sooners out of here. Sooners are Oklahomans, right?
I don't know.
All I can hear is JR from Pro Wrestling being like, bah, bah, bah. Anyway, next question. Why doesn't Leatherface try to kill Stretch? This is a subjective one.
Oh.
He has a big crush on her. Again, big is a relative one. It's a subjective term. He is scared of her. He hates her. His family tells him not to.
I think he's in love. Well, I don't know. I think he has a soft spot for her. Remember, we talked about this in the other episode, and this is why I always feel bad for Leatherface because I feel like he's like a big teddy bear.
You know what's funny is both Tobe Hooper movies have moments that really humanize Leatherface, and none of the other sequels do that.
Yeah, every other one he's this Herculean monster man.
Yeah, he's this Herculean monster man. And I'm like, can we fucking get a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that humanizes Leatherface and makes it some type of a fucked up comedy? Like, come on. We always got to go the ultra disturbing route with the sequels.
We talked about this when it came to Silence of the Lambs, where we're talking about like the demonification of anybody who's transgender, gender fluid.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge element of the first one. The three masks that he wears are all female. It's very closely tied to Ed Gein. Mm-hmm. You know, so when it comes to, and also stitching together it's very domesticated in his presentation. This one a lot less so. Mm-hmm. But I think that's something, again, I would also really think would be really well explored. And I'm not very optimistic about Foot Fetish Alvarez. How do I pronounce his first name?
Fede Alvarez.
Oh. Anyway.
It's Fede and Jake,
isn't that a type of hairstyle that I did for a long time? My hairstyle.
Well, okay, Jake, your audio's going out a little bit, so I don't know. Is there like something unplugged?
Is it better now?
Yes. Yeah.
So what I have to do in order to record is I put this microphone around my neck at my mouth, and then I speak into another microphone that goes into the mixer. So
wow.
I don't give a shit to the 5 people on YouTube who didn't hear me well. You should. Why are you giving me? You're gonna interrupt.
No. It wasn't that. I just didn't want you to like do the whole episode and be like, oh no.
No, it's good. And I'm telling the people on YouTube, they should buck up, Buttercup. Because if you're watching a Zoom call on YouTube, you are desperate for this content. So beggars can't be choosers. Next question. How does the Sawyers torture Stretch at the dinner table? By making her lean over a bucket and hit her in the head with a hammer, by making her wear Leatherface's mask, by making her eat rotten human flesh, by cutting her hand and arms with a sharp razor.
At the dinner scene?
Mm-hmm.
They put the mask on her.
No, that was beforehand. The dinner scene, they try to have Grandpa have a whack at her again, and it doesn't work out.
Exactly. That is the most overt reference to the first one. I remember being a kid and being like, is this allowed? Like it's just the same movie. But life goes on.
It's that family's tradition.
Yeah, right. It's like, oh, who's gonna break the wishbone over this lady's head into a bucket?
Yeah, and that's the brilliance of Tobe Hooper movies. Watch closely. There's always a little bit of a moment of like a fucked up Americana family in every one of his films.
Oh yeah. Well, especially Poltergeist. There's a lot of stuff. Especially like Poltergeist aged really fucking well.
Funhouse too. Funhouse is a big skewering of American culture.
Especially the front page of Pornhub these days, am I right?
Woo!
Motherfucking. What does Leatherface place on Stretch's head in the meat room? You already said it. This is probably the most ripped off thing that Rob Zombie does in Devil's Rejects is L.G. McPeter's skinned off face. How old is Grandpa in the film? 100, 137, 250, 110.
137.
Sounds like a good number, right? And let's check 137 years old. So if this film, what year did this movie come out? I have it in my notes, right?
86.
86. So we'll put in 1986 minus 137, which means he was born in 1849. There's your history lesson for today. We're circling the drain here, guys. 2 more questions. Where is the Sawyer's home located? Texas Battleland Amusement Park in Dallas, underground, a trailer in the desert, an isolated farmhouse in the woods, nowhere. They just travel from place to place.
It's in the amusement park,
In
isn't
the
it?
amusement park.
Correct. Final. Oh,
Well, you know what's so fucking cool about the sequel? It is the only Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie to not deal with a farmhouse.
oh yeah. I mean, it sticks out in every which way, and it's so indistinguishable. No, it's so distinguishably a canon film in terms
Oh,
of its
absolutely.
opulence, where you're just like, this is a grand set piece that has no purpose.
The set design, everything. It's like nowhere near the original film had this much of a grand set design, too.
And this is the dumbest question on the list. God damn it. Where is the metal plate on Choptop located? On his head, on his back, his thigh, his hand. It's almost like there's a hint in his name.
It's on his penis.
Well, it is on his head.
Exactly. This kid, I love the idea that he like was unwillingly circumcised as a kid, so he just like fused a metal cap to his little pecker. But yes, that was a 10 out of 10. We win. Suck it. Whatever website it was that I did that quiz off of, because I've already closed the tab. Now it seems like we're all fans of this film. Can we give like a brief stroke about like what we like about it most? Coker, I think you're chomping at the bit for this one.
I don't want to take up too much time, guys. This is a wildly subversive sequel from the original film. It's almost as if Hooper took every element of the original film and purposely went in the opposite direction, and it works. Instead of a brutal, grisly, nihilistic slasher film from the 70s where hippies are getting chopped up, you're having a like critique, making fun of Texas culture, 80s gore fest satire, and it really throws you off guard. But then when you think about it more, you're like, fuck, that was kind of a really fun, zany fucking horror sequel. That's awesome. Also, one of the very few slasher films, technically slasher films, to have the final girl throw off the slasher by using her sexuality and confusing him, where he's just like, wait, what's going on? And she's like, how good are you? And my wife watched that scene with me, and she was all like, please, she was screaming, don't let him start that chainsaw where he has it. So there's this uncomfortable. She said, I've never seen that in a slasher movie before. And I'm like, fucking right. This thing is wild. This movie is absolutely wild. And I hate to say it, but none of the other sequels do it for me. None of them. It's only the original film and this one. It's only the Tobe Hooper ones that do it for me. And I thought, why? I think it's because both Hooper's films really dive into something about the American zeitgeist and something about the American culture. They're both nihilistic comments, but also satires with grisly humor in a way. None of the other sequels do that. They either try to make it polished, or they try to make it disturbing, or they try to make it glossy, pretending to be disturbing. It's like, fuck off with that. And plus, as we said before, Leatherface has moments of humanization in both Tobe Hooper movies. Yeah. None of that shit in the other sequels. None of that shit. So I'm like, sadly, I don't think we're ever gonna get another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie with the strong social comment, satire, grisly humor of the Hooper ones, sadly.
I think that's a really interesting point, because I wonder, like, not to say that our nation is divided or whatever fucking rhetoric people want to espouse nowadays, but truly, to a certain point, like, how do you have like a rebellious countermeasure that's as succinct as these two films are? You have modernization, industrialization in the first one. In the second one, you have kind of the opulence and fast living of the 80s. And so it's a very clear linear path. And I feel like with how like staunchly divided we are in terms of like, who do you make fun of? Who is you know what I mean? It's not as easy, I think, in this, unless it's just basically like, hey, the internet's stupid, right?
Yeah. That's another brilliant thing about both Hooper movies is like, if you want to show a kid what 70s horror is, and show them Texas Chainsaw. And then if you want to say now you get to see how that changed radically in the 80s, just show them Texas Chainsaw 2. They're so defining of everything about each of their decades.
Aid, what do you got to say about Texas Chainsaw 2? Why do you like it?
I think it's, well, I think that it's a lot more fun than the other one, obviously, but there's also times where it's hilarious, and I don't think that the first one is in your face funny. I mean, there are parts where you laugh and you probably shouldn't. Probably Dan thinks I'm like a psychopath, but as far as that's another thing. I think that Rob Zombie sort of kind of takes that away in some of his movies because part 2 is a lot like that. So I think that by watching it, I think it's a little bit more fast paced. I think you can get through it. It's longer. It's 101 minutes. And I'm a little sad that we didn't get some of the deleted parts that I just kept reading about last night.
Oh, yeah. The deleted scenes are fun. They had a lot more Savini gore effects, too.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Joe Bob, the patron saint of this show itself.
Yeah. And his scene was cut, wasn't it? So,
yep.
What are you going to do? But I get it. They had to make up for time, but it's a lot more fun. I really do like the heroine in this one. I like Stretch. She's hilarious, especially the first time she starts screaming. Like, I just start laughing. Like, I don't think I'm like, and when the first time I saw this, I'm like, is this supposed to be funny? Like, I didn't realize it was supposed to be funny because I just watched this one probably about 10 years ago. So I didn't grow up with this one the way I grew up with the old one.
Gotcha.
Because it's not on anything. And
it's still not streaming anywhere without like a Star subscription or some bullshit.
Epic's bullshit.
Get the fuck
sadly,
out of here.
you gotta seek out the old DVDs or the Blu-rays, which I think sadly the Blu-rays are out of print. So guys, if you have your old DVDs, hold on to them.
Well, I know that I watched it not too long ago, like a couple of weeks ago, and it was on Tubi or Prime. I can't remember. So it was on something because I
think it was Tubi, but Tubi is usually Prime as well. But I know I watched it recently on Tubi, so.
Yeah, so I watched recently on something, so it was on, which is why I was surprised last night because I wanted to look at it again. So I just, I did my special thing I do.
Yahar!
To watch it again, just kind of be fresh in my mind. Because
don't worry, Toby doesn't get any of the money, so you're fine. You can pirate as much as you want.
I didn't do that. I have a VPN. Leave me alone. Anyway.
Where did you say you were?
For that reason alone.
Exactly. I have it. I mark it off as a business because I'm like, oh yes, it's security. Meanwhile, I'm like, hey, I'm watching Australian Lego Masters because Hamish Blake is fucking adorable. Hell yeah, Brickman. So what I like about this movie is this is like proto Gremlins to the new batch. Like that sardonic nature, the turning it on its head. It's very tongue in cheek, but also it knows what it is. It has to hit those marks. Like we kind of talked down about her getting hit over the head in the bucket, but you have to have it. Kind of talked down about some of these elements and the, I guess, blandification of Leatherface to a certain extent. But you kind of need it to propel because you've expanded the other family members so much, right? So I totally get it. What I always compare this movie to, though, is not Gremlins 2: The New Batch. I think this is like a forerunner to that. What I compare this film to is Psycho 3, which was directed by Anthony Perkins and came out just a couple months before this. And a lot of people forget the sequels to Psycho are delightful. Psycho 2 is a really good one. And then 3 does to 1 what this one does to the original Texas Chainsaw. Am I wrong?
Psycho 3 is wild. Psycho 3 is like Psycho 3 is like if Anthony Perkins even directed Psycho 3. Psycho 3 is like, imagine if Dario Argento was like kind of like kissing the back of Anthony Perkins' neck, telling him put those colored lights there.
The green gels are everywhere in this fucking movie.
Smoke this line of cocaine with me, Anthony Perkins. And then while they're doing that, they're kind of like directing a Psycho sequel, and that is Psycho 3.
Yeah. Do you have any strong opinions on Psycho 3, the third inning?
They're fine. They're not my favorite. I mean, I don't think it's bad. I actually watched it not too long ago. They're fine.
Fine.
They're the proto slasher. I don't want to sound all gatekeepy. Sorry, Adrian.
No, I do. I like the first Psycho. I just think that the other one. Well, yeah, and that's another thing too, because when
Oh, no, doggy.
Sorry, I'm just
Okay.
giving her the
Dude,
eye.
she just gave her the "I'm gonna throw a chancla at your face" stare.
So
Oh.
I'm gonna call
no,
PETA if you hit that dog with a
I'm
chancla,
not hitting her with a chancla. I just have
even
to
if it's a
wave it.
chanclita, which is a little chancla.
I
You know what?
my little
You know what?
chancleta.
A little side note. You know what sucks about Psycho is you don't see Norman Bates or Psycho imagery anywhere online anymore.
Nah, not really.
Not.
That
It's
Bates
like when.
Motel shit comes up all the time. I'm like, I'm not watching that.
Yeah, yeah, and then when there's artwork or like photos of all the famous slashers, Norman Bates is never there, and it's like, fuck. I think he's just too old, sadly.
Because he's like a nerd. Like nobody cares about Norman Bates. Like, come on.
That is a very
That's
hurtful thing to say.
that's the meanest thing I've ever heard about a fictional character.
I'm sorry. You want to tell me that Leatherface wouldn't be like cross-stitching a pattern that he found on Etsy if he wasn't murdering
Yeah,
people?
but I have more
yeah.
I have more empathy for Leatherface than I do for Norman Bates. He's just
I mean,
he's a
in
voyeur.
your-
I hate that. It's icky.
in your defense, Adrian, Norman Bates scream. I hate saying this. Sorry, Psycho fans. Norman Bates kind of screams quiet, nice guy who's a major fucking incel underneath.
Yeah, dude.
it all. That's
The closet
Norman, and
incel.
that's why a lot of women see Norman Bates and go, ooh, bringing back a lot of
Exactly.
memories, bringing back a lot
Yeah.
of bad memories of
So-
terrible dudes.
That's one of the reasons
You're
I find him
making me
effective is
feel
because he's
badly.
real.
You're
He
making
is-
me feel
yeah.
badly about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
He's
but
very real.
I think it helps too with other slashers because they all have some sort of facade. I mean, I guess with Norman dressing like Mama as a facade as in and of its own, but you never really. It doesn't matter. We're not talking about Norman Bates anymore.
Yeah,
I think
we
it's
really
the question of
diverge from
who is the
Psycho.
real Norman. Is it Norman in the mama outfit or Norma the taxidermist, which is the real essence of he? But that's not the movie we're talking about. We're talking about Texas Chainsaw 2.
And
And
like
there's
Psycho 3, it's a wild subversion.
exactly. But I think we can all agree. Like I said, it knows what it is. It's kind of pulling it back. It's reining it in to a certain extent, giving you those high notes, and both very largely reviled at the time they came out. Kind of any sequel that ever does this doesn't do well. Still a profitable movie, not that great. In terms of marketing, can we all agree on recorded film, MP3, whatever? This is the best horror poster that's ever existed. The parody of The Breakfast Club.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's
I
my
mean,
favorite one.
that's like one of my favorite, regular movies, right? And then to like pair them up, and the minute you see that, you know automatically that is, a parody of the Breakfast Club, and so
and
sweet.
the poster lets you know this is going to be a satire of some kind, guys. This is going to be fun if they're doing that,
Yeah, I mean, fuck, dude. Like, people who get like, oh, holier than thou, as though this movie somehow cheapens the first one. No, that's not what it is. It's a different, like, imagine if I asked you, Coker, to go back and recreate art that you did 10 years ago. You're not the same fucking dude.
No,
like,
no, at
Toby
all.
Hooper smoked some more weed. He found Oingo Boingo. Get the fuck over it. Enjoy.
Oh, the use of the whole soundtrack to this movie is wild
Bitches.
too.
Yeah.
Oh man, that opening scene on the bridge, which is somehow the longest fucking bridge ever.
Yeah, right.
That opening scene on the bridge where you think it's a zombie or a ghoul coming out of and the Oingo Boingo's playing, it's like right from that opening scene, it's letting you know, do not expect the first fucking movie.
And it's crazy to think that Stuart Copeland is on this soundtrack, who also famously of The Police and did the music for Spyro the Dragon.
Wow. I did not know that.
That is a wide dearth. So, Aid, what do you think of the music in this film? Are you a The Cramps fan? Are you a Concrete Blondie fan?
Oingo Boingo?
Everybody,
I don't
that's a spoken for. You don't have to. Everybody's a fan of Oingo Boingo, and anybody who isn't is lying. Maybe that
What?
Travis Scott guy's not, but fuck him anyway.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, let's not talk about that, please. The music in it I think helps drive the tone of the movie, obviously. So I think that it's important that it's there. I don't really think we have that as, in your face as well, maybe in the first one. I don't know. I'm just trying to think. For me, the music, it has to make you remember the movie, right? So like when you hear it, you're like, oh, okay, I feel that, So I think that, I think that it does what it's set out to do. I don't know if it's like my favorite thing. Oh my God, I gotta hear the music. So I'm not as musically inclined as you are, Jake. I'm sorry.
Well, it's not even just that like one of the things I think is even better about this is that these aren't necessarily like singles. A lot of these songs are arguably like B-side kind of stuff. It just fits well, and I think it's like, we were talking about antagonistically contrary to the first one. The first one is very famous for a lack of music, a lack of sound, a lack.
You hear a little bit of banjo music in the background, like real hippie style banjo music, which sets the tone for that movie. But this is a different movie.
It's very Korean almost. I mean, if you watch some like Korean horror, there's like there's no sound until there's every sound. That's something I really am super into. It's like, it's kind of jump scary, but a little bit, more artful, I guess. Not to get too woo woo.
Pretty much, I saw the devil. Like what I saw the devil does. Yeah, all the time.
Exactly. So, moving on to another point. Who's got the next point? Because I could go on and on for days.
Guys, this is a fucking awesome sequel.
Yeah. First, when you think about this movie and you think about all of the crazy things happening, there's a lot of movies that reference this one, other movies that reference this one.
Yeah.
And even when I was a kid, I knew that this movie had a lot more gore. And I was almost disappointed when I first watched the first Chainsaw Massacre, because I thought that was the first one. I can't remember who's watching it. It's a Tom Hanks movie from like the early 90s, and he's watching, do you know what I'm saying? Is it The Burbs? Yeah, he's watching this fucking movie in The Burbs, and I'm like, oh my god, it's like Oscar, because I love the Burbs. Oh my god, we should do The Burbs. Have you done The Burbs? We need to do The Burbs. Anyway.
I won't hold back on The Burbs. I'm not a fan of that ending.
Oh my god.
I'm not a fan of that ending. So that's a whole other like debate episode in the future, guys. So
maybe we could do a whole movie of like ending, or a whole episode, because this is not cinema, of endings we're not particularly fond of, like the number 23. Not a fan of that ending. I like that he is basically atoning for his sins, but it's kind of bland. Like Visiting Day at the sanitarium.
That movie was Joel Schumacher holding back. And we've seen Joel Schumacher just explode onto the scene with Batman Forever, Lost Boys. Anyway, Adrian, what were you back on?
Oh, I don't even remember the hell.
You're talking about the gore, the glamour, the glitz.
Yeah, so I mean, other movies reference it because it is a lot more in your face than the other one, and I don't know if it's necessarily think that makes it better. I just think if you're less inclined to pay attention, like if you're a person who will pick up your phone every 2 seconds, the second one's definitely going to hold your attention better. And it's more colorful and there's more gore. And it's just, can we just talk about Bill Mosley? Because I am so in love with him. Oh my God.
Oh, that's actually the point of contention we have. Because I'm still not entirely sure that I hate him in this movie for the right reasons. I don't believe he's rendering a great performance. I think that he is annoying as an actor and a character in this, even though this is his favorite film character he's ever played.
I will agree with you, Jake. To be honest, I always found Choptop to be the Harley Quinn of horror. Like you can only take him in bite-sized bits, because if you take him too long, he just fucking annoying. Like that's Harley Quinn.
Really good, dude.
Choptop is the Harley Quinn of horror. Yes, absolutely. Yep. It's like, okay, it's like eating really over frosted cake, and you're like, that's what it is. That's what Choptop is. I can totally agree with that, because by the time he's like with the lighter going, burn her like a rat, I'm like, all right, calm the fuck down, dude. All right.
That also, one of the things I get frustrated with this film, I don't know if it's performance or if it's the underlying substance. Can we talk briefly about the writing of the film?
By L.M. Kit Carson? Was that
yes?
Who wrote it? Yes.
Who did like fucking nothing?
Yeah,
Breathless,
and he just
Paris, Texas. 1 episode of the Miami Vice TV show. Like, we're not talking about a prolific writer here.
No, yet he wrote such a almost borderline brilliant script that was a big comment on just Texas culture with this. And I'm like, fuck, dude, if you had that much talent, why didn't you write more?
Well, and it's weird because I don't know if the underlying script itself is that good or if it's the delivery of the script that makes it that good. Because think about this scenario. The scene with the chili cook-off in and of itself is conceptually quite trite. But when it's delivered, Jim Cedow does a fucking great job of being this like Jim Jones motherfucker who's like two-faced and gross. And so
I got to bring it back to Doug here. I'm surprised we have not talked about Doug on this podcast. Doug fucking loves this movie too. He quotes it more than me. Also, Doug would always take that scene and say hard shell peppercorns. Also, the most quotable of all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies.
Yeah, agreed. And it is, but also, is it because the underlying line itself is great, or is it because it is delivered well? And that's one of the things why I think that I might be overly critical of Bill Mosley in this scenario, is because a lot of his Beavisness, if you will, might be that he just doesn't have shit to say. And he might just be kind of chewing the scenery a little bit too much. But if he had more substance there, I might not find him so obnoxious. Am I right or wrong, Adrian?
I think, well, I get where you're coming from, but I disagree because I feel that he obviously has a brain injury. So he's not going to be or play a character who can, recite.
Oh, this motherfucker just called me ableist.
I did not call you ableist.
Guys, we're at that point in the podcast. So.
Okay. Anyway, like I was saying, I just feel that I think he's more ableist because that's what he thinks people with brain injuries behave like. I have no idea.
He actually modeled this. Oh no, that was Edwin. Sorry.
Well, okay. So Bill Mosley, though, I mean, even his Instagram handle is Choptop Mosley. I mean, he does love this character, and I don't know if maybe he wasn't like this wasn't his best performance. When you see him, I just think like when he's scratching, and I always say this, when he's scratching his thing with the coat hanger,
and then picking the skin out. Oh, it's so purposely gross.
I love it. Like he's a very animated character, very much like the hitchhiker in part 1. And I like that they have a character in this like this because, we can't just have Leatherface. I think a lot of issues come, I not even so much as parts, I guess with the remake, if we're going to talk about the remake or even that shitty 3D one, like they're trying to just focus all this stuff on Leatherface.
Yeah. And you ever notice both Tobe Hooper movies, there is kind of a side slasher. The first one had the hitchhiker. This one has Choptop.
Yeah.
You're right, Adrian. All the other sequels, the non-Tobe Hooper sequels, all the other family members are really fucking boring and dull.
Yeah, there's kind of shitty people. It
Except,
almost acts like a Herald of Galactus almost, right? Where it's like...
Except for, I got to give a little bit of credit to Kim Henkel for trying to do that, bring that back with Next Generation with Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, yeah. Matt
I'll give it that.
McConaughey was good in that.
It was an
really
attempt. It was an attempt to bring that back.
But that one actually I do like. And part
We've
3 is
talked
probably we talked about this. Part 3 is my least favorite. I do like
it's the most milquetoast. It's just like a movie.
Although I will admit, the VHS cover was fucking scary.
The one with the Saw His Family?
Saw His Family and like the red and purple light and just the hollow of the mask. It was like, ooh,
I'll give it that. That's pretty good. The Next Generation poster is kind of shit ass.
Yeah.
It is. But then you see Texas, I think that just the name is just so visceral, right? So you're like, ooh, someone's going to get sliced up with a chainsaw. I can't wait. So, when it doesn't happen, which the Next Generation, I think we talked about
not one fucking chainsaw kill in that entire film.
When it doesn't happen, I think it's like not post-nut clarity. What would you say? Like
blue balls.
Blue balls.
Okay.
Blue balls. Absolutely blue balls.
So okay.
I'm blue and deep inside of my balls, and I'm blue in my balls, and I.
Is that what he says in that song? I don't
know. Millennial songs, folks. Millennial
I actually
songs.
watched a full documentary on that song. It's fucking hilarious. Those guys like hated each other. Oh, it's so good. It's on Vice. It's great.
Oh, I can't wait. All right.
Yeah, he's like literally. He's like, I've had people come up to me because apparently he wrote like lyrics that had emotion, and then wrote the Indabandi, and so. As they were going through it, it's like, no, fuck your emotional shit. We'll just do this. And so he's had people come up to him, and he talks about this one interaction with like the utmost disdain, where he says that somebody comes up to him, he's like, hey bro, do you really say I'm blue and if I was green I would die? He goes, what the fuck? No, that's not what I said. It's just like, so you're upset that somebody misinterpreted your essentially scatting. Cool, man. Cool. I'm really surprised you don't have more #1 singles.
Oh man. Guys, something I wanted to bring back for Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is obviously the film is a big satire and critique of Texas culture. There's a scene in this movie. I want you to hear your guys' interpretations. When Lefty goes to get the chainsaws from the old man, he drives into the thing, and there's this random marching band to the left of the corner going down the street, which is really fucking surreal when you think about it. Like, what the hell's up with that? But remember, he buys the chainsaws, and he's all like, the old man's just like, you can go test out on the log outside. And he's testing it out, and they're playing that music, and they're doing the zoom up, and the old man's practically getting a fucking boner. Like, if you listen closely, he actually says, "Oh, Mike and banana." And it's like, that whole creepy ass scene, which honestly is like A24 probably takes some cues from just that scene. Just that scene is so fucking A24 looks at that scene and goes, Hooper, But what's your interpretation of that really A24 moment of the movie?
The A24 thing checks out because I saw Green Knight and when he gets like disappointingly jacked off. Yeah, that checks out. Adrian, what do you got?
Oh, well, if we're going to talk about that, I think it's more of just to show the general, like, trying to be pleasant type atmosphere of the South, right? And I don't even think of Texas as the deep South, as I do.
To me, Texas has always been Texas.
I don't put it in line with Oklahoma and Kansas. Like, ew. Oh, sorry for anybody who's there. I live in Florida, so don't feel.
Guys, you're talking. Guys, this podcast is Beach City State, folks. 3 Californians and a Florida girl. Like,
we're too coastal to go postal.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, bro.
Anyway, so I don't know. I think that by showing that, like, because you always have these, and I always chalk it up, and this is so terrible. You know that the very first episode, I think it's the first episode of King of the Hill, where Bobby's trying to hit down the piñata, and like he can't hit it. So Dale comes over with the cigarette still lit in his mouth, and he takes out a pocket knife and he's cutting it open. Like, that's Texas, right?
Yeah.
Am I crazy? Like, that's what I always thought of Texas.
I've always took this as being very sardonic against men. Like, oh, you boys, like it's with men with their tools and their weapons. And this is a weird amalgamation of the two, right? This reminds me of the small dick guy who gets a sword from the mall and the guy who has an AR-15 combined.
Yeah, plus the movie's really on the nose about slasher weapons being phallic. It's super on the nose about that.
Dude.
Like that whole scene where they're getting boners over the chainsawing of the logs, and then Leatherface with that sexual frustration taking the chainsaw and just doing the humping motion. It's like, yeah, it's letting you know. Yeah, it's always been a symbol of phallus,
Yeah. And also, it goes to queer culture because the only person who gets that chainsaw is another dude. There we go. In the first one. Oh, also, can we talk about like my favorite line of the movie? Sorry, speaking of dudes getting chainsawed, because only one gets it in the first, and then in this one, it's a smorgasbord. But when Lefty does the, oh yeah, the guy went so crazy, he cut himself in the face with a chainsaw going 90 miles an hour down the freeway. That's just, I know I misquoted it, god damn it, but it's still good.
Yeah, that's cute. It's just a cute, fun movie. And I like, the fact is that not enough people feel, I don't know why I always say this, but like, this probably is the last one, except for the remake. Because I think there's a part of the remake where you feel sorry for Leatherface. Not sorry for him, but you feel bad. Like when he cuts himself and he starts screaming. I'm like, oh.
In a generic sense, though, I mean, in the first one and even this one, we talked about it. Like, there's the implication of a long-standing history of abuse, an internal conflict and internal turmoil, whether it be because of gender identity or his station in the family. There's a lot that you can presume there, right? Versus the remake, it's just kind of like, oh, big doofus get boo-boo. It kind of reminds me of like Rob Zombies to an extent. It's like, okay, if I'm watching all this turmoil, it's all external. Like, I don't really give a shit about the internal elements and machinations of what he's going through. Versus Leatherface, I'm always kind of wondering and wanting more.
Yeah, and I think with the remake, though, I think it's kind of implied that he grew up abused, not watching the prequel, because prequel fucking sucks, but it's implied that he's being abused because of the little boy. Isn't he one of the Culkins or whatever, that little boy in the movie?
Sure. One of the Culkins was just on some TV
He
show,
was
some
on
Saturday Night Live.
Night Live. Yeah, he was
Mhm.
so cute. And then they realized
Is that
he
the
was
one that's on the HBO show where it's all about the money?
Succession, yeah.
Mhm.
My
And
wife
then
watches that.
he did a thing where he's like, oh yeah, 30 years ago I was 9 years old on the stage, and I just sat there blinking because I'm like, oh my god, like all the Culkin brothers are almost 40. It's crazy. And
You know,
I'm fucking old.
You know what I'll say? I rewatched the the two French filmmakers. I rewatched that movie 2 years ago, there for August, and that's the worst to me. I'm sorry, that is the fucking worst Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequel, in my opinion.
Huh.
Like Next Generation
Sorry,
ain't
I
got
thought you were
shit
talking
on
about something the
Leatherface.
Culkins did, and I'm like, I have
no,
no
no,
idea.
Those
I'm
fucking
sorry.
Culkins!
No, I
I
got
hated
you, I
Lords
got
of Chaos, you know.
Which one? I'm sorry. Which one was the worst?
For me, it was the Leatherface prequel from like
Oh,
2017.
it's on Tubi right now. I still haven't watched it.
Ugh. I felt it was too mean-spirited for its own good.
And
Way
that's
too
what
mean-spirited.
That's
That's
why you got
what's
the right
scary,
energy for
yeah.
this show, because we talk about that quite a bit. We like the fun horror. I'm not gonna mean-spirited bullshit. Life's
And granted,
too dark.
And granted, sometimes a mean-spirited slasher works for me, but
Yeah.
when it has to leave a good taste in your mouth, mean-spirited versus a mean-spirited that leaves a bad taste in your mouth, like what Leatherface did.
Yeah, I mean, even like movies like Martyrs and things of that nature, those movies are
Yeah.
just, it's too much. And
Okay,
I don't
for an
mind watching it, but
Yeah. They don't, they leave you in a downer mood. Like, okay, for an example, three slasher movies that are mean-spirited, but they don't leave me in a downer mood. The Hills Run Red, fucking terrific slasher movie from 2009. Check that one out.
I haven't
High
seen it.
Tension.
High tension's beautiful.
High Tension is good.
High Tension.
yeah.
High Tension's mean-spirited as fuck, but it doesn't leave you in a downer mood. And
And it's gross. It's
It's-
sexually
yeah.
gross, but it
Mhm.
doesn't make you feel like rapey.
yeah, exactly. And then third, Halloween Kills. I felt Halloween Kills was mean-spirited enough to the point I liked it, and it didn't leave a bad taste in my mouth. So again, good mean-spirited and then bad mean-spirited. That's my thought process on that. And sorry, Leatherface was just too bad mean-spirited.
I think with it, when you talk about certain mean-spirited films, I feel like that energy carries throughout the film. With Halloween
my God.
Kills, what?
How the fuck come nobody told me Steven Dorff is in Leatherface 2017? I
I
actually
know,
might
that
see
was-
this now.
That was the reason I put it on the list because
The
I'm
blue
like, oh,
cigarettes
Jordan
guy?
is-
Fuck out of here. Cranky little
Was it-
bitch from Blade. Yeah.
Yes.
I love Stephen Dorff. You're so mean.
Deacon
Okay.
Frost.
Oh my God. I rewatched Blade a couple years ago, and as a kid, I was like, oh, Deacon Frost is such a bad guy vampire. I watched that movie as an adult, and I'm like, this guy, oh God, this guy's so fucking annoying.
This
I used
petulant
to-
child just
I used to have a
whining.
crush on
It's-
him. You
It's
didn't
it's
like him?
pretty much a 13-year-old. It's a 13-year-old
Yeah,
boy.
exactly. But like
Mhm.
a 13-year-old who actually pulls it off. You know what I mean? Like he's like the brat in the back of the class who like somehow actually gets his teacher arrested or something. You're like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
Mhm. Can't
Except in
fucking
this scenario, he's burning his
stand that
teacher
villain.
alive.
Yeah, I can't.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, poor Udo Kier in that movie. Yeah.
So, any other like key talking points, or do we want to kind of just talk about like the overall arc of the film? And I know. We talk about the canon set that we were talking about, the
Oh, that set-
unnecessary opulence.
That set design, plus when she's running through that hall and there's all those skeletons and like campy Pee-wee's Playhouse style poses, it was
Right?
both. It's both fun but also ghoulish as fuck too.
Yeah, it's like a haunted house. Like you're going through a maze or something.
Why isn't there a Halloween Horror Nights maze of this movie?
Oh, that would be really good.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I think they have to get the rights, and that's the issue. Because they did a Chainsaw Massacre house this year. That was fine.
They always redo the first movie every single time.
It's not even the first movie. I think sometimes they only have like access to the character, and so they can't do anything else from the film. For example,
okay.
when they do stuff with Freddy, like you never see like, because usually before you go in the houses, they used to play clips of films. I used to play. That's how I found Dead Alive when I was like
Mhm.
17. I was waiting in line at a haunted house in Halloween Horror Nights and Islands of Adventure, and they were playing like clips, all the nasty clips from Dead Alive, like when they're
Oh,
cranking the
wow.
body through the thing. And so, But I guess Freddy Krueger was like the thing that year, but they couldn't show any Nightmare on Elm Street shit. They could only
Okay.
use him. So I don't know if that hasn't. I'm sure that hasn't. I don't look these things up. I'm just speculating here. I should probably look it up.
Well, and that's another thing is that the characters actually have names in this. And so it kind of goes to the whole like man without a name archetypal character situation. Like the cook is still the cook, but now he's Drayton Sawyer. He's more realized, and also that distinguishes in terms of licensing because it's a different ownership, albeit portrayed by the same actor. There's a different licensable entity, and I think that's a huge element of it as well.
I mean, the set is great. I like that it's different. I like that it's not in the house again because I feel like we could always come back to the house after this.
Always go. Every single one involves the Fallen House in some way.
So why is it that it's only here? Oh, well, they blew it up. That's right. So they have to go home.
Let me ask you a question. So in terms of kind of the one-to-one comparison with the actors and the characters from the first one, I mean, Choptop is really the only major detour. Did it and this might just be me being A, an idiot, and then B, seeing this too young. I thought this was the hitchhiker for like the first probably 5 times I saw the film, because the hitchhiker gets his head bashed open by a fucking truck. And so I was like, oh, it fixed his head. And I always kind of took the Nom flashback as almost being like a quip. And now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, this is clearly just a different person.
Yeah, but isn't the hitchhiker the dead
He's
body that they carry around?
That's the dead body.
Yes, but I just took that to be a dead body because there's a copious amount of dead bodies. Adrian, copious. Not as in habeas corpus. My jokes are funnier when I explain them.
I know.
Guys, there's one more thing I would like to say. Well, 2 more things I'd like to say.
Say 1,000 more things.
Yes, the power. Anyway, did you
another
guys know?
canon entity, Masters of the Universe, which arguably is a slasher as he uses the sort of power. So if you want to see us do that movie, I have lots of opinions. I love it very much. Go ahead.
And Doug would get stoned.
Oh, wait. We also have a shirt on SlashersPod.
Oh, yeah.
Redbubble.com.
Wow. Coming in with the subterfuge.
Oh, but guys, I was going to say, did you guys know that Tobe Hooper's son in 1999 filmed a sequel? I was going to go here.
Yeah.
Jake, I'm going to go here.
It hurts
my
guys.
Brain. This is going to hurt your soul, folks. William Hooper, Tobe Hooper's son, in 1999 directed a sequel/prequel film, hour-long film, to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, with Bill Mosley coming back as Choptop, telling his story in prison. And apparently, I shit you not, Buckethead played Leatherface in it. The trailers, the trailers for this there's several different trailers, one in really bad 2001 QuickTime MOV quality. There's trailers for this on YouTube.
Yep.
And it looks like the lost film we're never going to see, and it looks wild. And if you look closely during one of the trailers, you see a really nasty death scene of a girl getting like chainsawed in a parking lot, and it's like, fuck, but you got to look really close. Who knows if we're ever going to see it. That thing was filmed in 1999. William Hooper tried to get a Kickstarter going to finish it in post-production in 2013. He didn't make it.
Yeah.
Well,
you only have yourselves to blame, horror fans.
Yeah, like everyone should just get back on. That's ridiculous. Like, why would you? And then you have Bill Mosley for that too. Like, why would you do that for him alone?
As Choptop.
It's also very interesting. You'd feel like Bill Mosley might have enough money nowadays to be able to get it done, especially if it's his favorite character and his nom de plume. But
he does.
Oh, I forgot. I've been teasing this, and I never even said the title. The title of this is called All American Massacre,
which is almost more Texan, right?
It's more. Yeah. All American Massacre, the Lost Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Look it up, guys.
And that's
it's very frustrating.
Because he's in that shitty, what is that one called? The 3D. Why can't I think of it? They just
Texas Chainsaw 3D, the one with Alexandria Daddario. That's the only good part of that movie.
The one
That's
where
they
zoom in on every girl's ass on the movie. Like what was the point? One, because I was on a date with some guy and he even said it like after the 5th time. He's like, why do they keep zooming in on every girl's ass?
Was
like at the
just
middle
trying
of the
to
movie.
sound cultured and see your ass. I will tell you
that's
plainly.
Probably true, but that's not the point. The fact is that what the fuck? And then number 2, Bill Mosley is in the beginning of that and he plays a different character. Did you notice that?
Mhm.
He's at the beginning of that movie. And I'm like, oh, Bill Mosley. And I'm like, there's something not right here. Is this before he's
Well,
Choptop?
Stretch
Is
comes
bef-
back in the third one. I mean, they've done that a couple times.
As a reporter, yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
have
somebody
these.
different. But
They
him, you can't use him.
they have
Right.
these weird Easter egg meta cameo things between all the films. Also, guys, everybody complains about the timeline of the Halloween movies. Look at the fucking timeline of the Texas Chainsaw films.
Okay.
We're going
hey.
there. We're going there.
Don't do that, because at least each one is its own thing, and you just take it
Yeah.
as such. Versus like the Halloween one, it's like they're all related and they're not. And there's some thorns, and then there's not, and then there's the guy.
I'll give you that. The Halloween movies, you literally have to do like a connect the dots shit. Whereas the Texas Chainsaw movies, you can watch the first film, and then all the sequels after that are just, what do you want to continue from the first film?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's definitely fair.
Yeah, that's nice. And honestly, I do enjoy watching all of them. I've watched the third one a couple times just because it's on, and I'll put it on in the background. It's my least favorite, but I probably watch it a lot.
That
Well, hell,
trailer
it
was
sounds like
scary.
Leatherface is gonna be your least favorite.
Oh yeah, probably. I probably like because I like to just leave things on while I'm cleaning the house, And so Chainsaw Massacre is always fun because you hear a lot of things going on, right?
Yeah,
You don't even have to watch it, but you hear everybody screaming, and then the chainsaw comes on, and they just run back in from dusty, like, oh, what's going on now? Whereas, some movies you can't just leave on, like maybe not Leatherface. I don't know. I'll have to watch it. It's on Tubi. Everything else is on fucking Tubi except for part 2. So that's great.
it's because I think that this one is meretriciously the best of the sequels when it comes
Yes.
down to it. I guess in terms of also
Absolutely.
my flavor and kind of the flavor that we've cultivated with slashers. I mean, if you look at our repertoire, a lot of people have been openly critical, like, oh, you guys don't do slashers, which for the longest time was just an overt joke. We took over a year before we did our first slasher film, which I always thought was a very apparently deliberate thing that a lot of people didn't get. Not to say that people are stupid, it's just we have always kind of been so passionate about like the kind of satirical, comedic, fun movies.
There's a fun nature to the show.
Yeah, and I think that's like this is a great movie for that because it's fun. Like even when we're talking about a guy who's like tragic backstory, even when we're talking about all these things, and I mean, you feel good when people get murdered or maimed.
Mhm.
Especially those kids in the beginning. Let's talk about those
Oh,
annoying kids.
Those
They deserved
yuppie
it.
brats, those yuppie fucking brats. That's what something I like about the sequel too is the original is all about killing hippies. This one is all about killing yuppies.
Exactly, right? Which I really wish that the deleted scene was still in it when they were like going and getting more meat, because I think that
Yes.
that could have really had a great impact on showing how broad the spectrum is now and like how the focus has shifted.
Yeah, there's a wild deleted scene where Leatherface and them kill a bunch of like rowdy frat boys in a parking lot in Dallas, and it's like it's Leatherface in an almost Texas urban setting, which was really cool.
I know, and that's a shame that we don't have it. And I mean, I get it. I was reading why they did it, at least pacing and whatnot. But at the same time, like, I think it's nice that they do have, you can have access to it if you get the DVDs. If you have the DVD, I'm sure you have the deleted scene. And I could probably look it up on YouTube. Let's be
YouTube.
honest.
It's there.
So I don't know how good the quality is. Because
It's work print. It's work print quality, sadly. So.
I just don't like to like watch things on YouTube if I don't have to. Does that make any sense?
Well, I mean, look at the culture
I
of
hate
YouTube right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only great thing I like seeing on YouTube now is Meat Canyon cartoons. That's it. When I see a Meat Canyon cartoon, I'm like sold. There we go.
Which is the muck avocado man exploding, right?
Yeah. Just
Does he only do the muck men, or does he do other stuff? The Meat
Canyon?
No.
He Meat Canyon does these really purposely uncomfortable, unsettling, almost Robert Crumb, Todd McFarlane style parody cartoons. Right he did one on Shane Dawson and Jeffree Star. That's fucking hilarious. He did one on Dragon Ball. He did one on SpongeBob. He tries to do his own things. He's part of the Cream Crew podcast. I was not expecting to be plugging a YouTuber on the show, but whatever,
Hey, go for it. If it's good content, it's good content. Fuck, I'll plug something. I'm reading something called Black Clover right now, which is a manga about a kid who can't do magic when everybody else can, and he's really angry about it. And my cousin-in-law was like, hey, don't watch the anime, the kid yells the whole time and is super annoying. And I was like, well, I myself yell all the time and I'm super annoying. So this is pretty on brand for me. So there you go. Adrian, you plug something stupid.
Oh, there's nothing to plug. Oh, but what I can plug is my book, which I don't have it.
What the fuck? No, don't, not literacy. Plug up a thing that you didn't intend to plug.
YouTube. Oh, but I love cooking with Shireen. And oh my God, I tagged her in something because I made my homemade roasted pureed pumpkin. Like she said, I tagged her in it. And she messaged me back and she said, what did she say? She said, oh, that's great, girl. Or she said something so sweet. Oh, she's like, that's awesome, my girl. And then she shared my story on her page.
Oh,
And I'm like, plugging Slashers podcast.
Nice.
I know, but I love her. If you don't follow her, Cooking with Shireen, she's on everything. If you don't follow her, you're done. I mean, I know you're vegan, Jake, so you don't have to follow her, but she's really pretty and she like does all these amazing cooking videos. And I like literally sit there and watch her for hours. Like,
well, speaking of pretty vegan cooks, Chef Chloe is the daughter of Don Cocciarelli, the guy who directed Phantasm. So
nice.
This lady looks like a normal person. I'm Googling her for the first time. And if I saw her at a farmer's market, I would be like, that is every Californian middle-aged woman I see. So I'm glad she has a personality to expand beyond that.
Who? You're Chloe?
No, you're Cooking with Sheeran.
She's not from California.
But I'm saying she looks, if you told me she was, I wouldn't argue.
Greek. Like, come on.
I'm looking at still images of a blonde-haired lady with kind of a flat affectation on her face, kind of a lazy eye on the right. Maybe she's my biological mom because I have that.
Oh my God, you were just so God. What do you say about me when I leave the screen? Jesus.
I have like a weird eye. Have you ever noticed that? Like this eye don't work very good.
No, I don't look at you to be like, oh, where's Jake's lazy eye? Oh my God.
Well, it's not my fucking fault you're not scrutinous.
And we do a whole episode where we're just like, where's your eye? Where's your eye? You know.
No, and this is what I'm saying is that Leatherface is, like is misunderstood basically.
Are you likening yourself?
And no,
or me?
I'm likening the fact that people like Leatherface has to wear other faces to feel like he's accepted.
Well, if I wore another face, I'd still have my fucked up eye underneath it. So how about that, Adrian? Ableist Adrian. There we go.
Oh
you threw it back.
Finally got you back. I will quote my favorite law school professor. I'm not even until I'm ahead. Boom.
I know.
Guys, I just wanted to say, I hope Doug can contribute to this episode in some way because this movie means a lot to him. And this movie meant a lot to our friendship because I remember right before he moved to Ohio for a few years, the last thing we did was sat down and watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
All right, let's do this. We're going to cue this up right now. Doug, take it away. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, and we'll just have Doug edit a little thing in.
Okay.
And then,
guys, I had maybe 2 plugs, and then I'm good.
Okay. And we're back from Douglas. Dougie Redo. He's an instrument that you blow into, and sound comes out the other side. So I think, in terms of slashers lore, we can all agree this is a classic film, and everybody should see it if they haven't, right?
Slashers podcast approved.
And I honestly I will completely admit, it is not the best movie. But when you take it with the caveat, the time capsule handicap, dude, amazing. It was provocative in a way that wasn't contemporary. It was like to the point of being antagonistic. And, it was almost confrontationally with the audience, like, oh, you want this? But Papa knows better, says Mr. Hooper.
It's that subversive sequel you're not expecting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, Adrian, any closing remarks?
Well, I just want all of you to follow us on Instagram at SlashersPod. Don't forget our Patreon at patreon.com/SlashersPod. Don't forget our Redbubble because we do have our Masters of the Universe play on a t-shirt that Dan wore at Halloween Horror Nights, and I keep showing the picture because it looks really good on everybody. Yay. And that's at slasherspod.redbubble.com. If you've ever read my book, or if you're reading my book, the last name of the main character is Sawyer on purpose because I am paying homage to the Sawyer family. So yay, now you want to read it. Go get it. It's on Amazon. Last call.
And remember, if you buy the book, you get every Patreon bonus episode we've ever done for free. So it has
Exactly.
obstreperous value.
It has so much value because who wants to like not hear us for like hours at a time? So
And there's a character from My Hero Academia who throws a book and then freezes it in space and uses it to jump between buildings. So you can learn to do that with Adrian's book.
yes,
Oh.
or just throw it into space if you hate it. It's fine. Makes a good doorstop. And Christmas is coming up, so don't forget our Redbubble.
And
Mhm.
I'm sure, not that I would know, but I'm hypothesizing that you could probably use it as rolling papers and it would make you smarter because you're smoking words.
Exactly. You could definitely do it with that.
I
and
read
it's
that.
pretty-
I read that
it's a-
online.
It's a pretty cheap rolling paper book. So there you go.
Guys, I had cut just 2 plugs myself. Horrible Imaginings Film Festival is already accepting early bird entries and submissions for the film festival for next year. That is a big film festival we host in Santa Ana at the Frida Cinema every August. So if for any filmmakers out there, check that out on filmfreeway.com. And also, we spent the episode talking about Texas. I have a friend in Texas named Chelsea Robinson. She made a terrific Halloween night Texas suburbia killer doll short film called Smile. We premiered it. Yeah, it's Texas suburbia, colored lighting, killer creepy doll. It's really fun. And it's almost like a student film that just works. We premiered that at Horrible Imaginings in 2017 to a standing ovation. And I believe her film, the short film, is available to watch on Amazon Prime. Just double check on that, guys. But it's a fun little Texas horror short film from my friend Chelsea.
Awesome. Speaking of Texas horror short films, Bill Mosley got his role in Texas Chainsaw 2 because of the Texas Chainsaw Manicure. So with that bit of trivia, my name is Jake saying goodbye and good die. Boop.